right, so I didn't make a video yesterday during my commute because I could not think of anything to talk about. And I was thinking, like, what should I center this around? What should I, like, make the point of it? And in my first video, I talked about how one of the things that I want my children to know for sure is that they are loved and wanted and appreciated, and like, I'm grateful to have them in this world, not just, you know, they're a consequence of a mistake or anything like that, which I'm sure is how most people feel. Well, I don't want to put that on everyone, but I'm sure that's how a lot of people feel. But I was thinking, something else that I really want them to know is that they are the ones in the most control of what happens in their life. And they say, like, you can't choose what happens to you, you can only choose how you react to it. But no matter what position you're in, you can always choose how you're reacting to your circumstances. And a lot of people will complain about their circumstances, they'll complain about how all these things are happening to them. They're a victim of all of these things that happened before them, and all of these things that seemingly more powerful entities are doing to them. But I really want my children to know, you know, I like to think that they'll be a little privileged, that they will have more opportunities than most kids, just because, you know, their mom and dad love each other, and she gets to stay home and raise them while I go to work and all that. And so, you know, like, I want them to know I obviously tried everything that I could to give them as many advantages as possible. But I definitely also want them to know that they're in control. Not, you know, as children, obviously, or as babies, they can't change their own diaper, they can't even tell you why they're crying. But as adults, or, you know, even as teenagers, like, I remember having the ability to think freely very early, maybe around like 9 years old, and then it solidified more around 11 years old. I remember finishing like the 6th grade and having my mind a lot more opened, like I was transitioning from a child into being an adult. And I spent a lot of my life, you know, seeing all of these things that I felt were unfair and thinking, oh, these things are happening to me. You know, I'm powerless. I'm 11 years old. You know, I can't change anything. But there's always a choice. And yeah, you don't have a lot of tools at that age. You don't have a lot of perspective. So it seems as though you are the victim of these outside forces that are happening to you. But really, like, if you can stand where you are and say, I can see with both my eyes, I can hear with both my ears, I have all 10 fingers and toes, and, you know, I'm sorry if you don't have any one of those things, don't get upset with me. But that's all, you're already, you know, very blessed. You're already very lucky to be in that position that you are. And yeah, they say, like, things could be worse, and that's the last thing you want to hear when you're actually going through something real and suffering. But, you know, and everyone always responds, things could be better. It's like, those things are always true for everyone, infinitely in each direction, no matter what your circumstances are. But you are the number one player in your life, always. You are the one who is most responsible and most in charge of your own happiness and how you're feeling and how you're going to respond to things and how you're going to find your purpose in your life and where you're going to find fulfillment and justify the suffering that is inevitable. Everyone's going to suffer. I think it was Buddha that figured that out after, like, not suffering for however long, and then he meets an old man, and then he's like, what's wrong with you? And he's like, oh, I'm old. And he's like, what? I'm going to get old and die? It's like, yeah, everyone's going to suffer. And, like, just the trajectory of a baby's life. It's like they're born, they were in, you know, oblivion, just swimming in the ether in the womb for 9 months, kind of like forming, and then the air is cold, and it's kind of a shock. But then they get their bearings, their eyes start to focus, and they're very comfortable, you know. They're like, yeah, I'm drinking milk, I'm laying on my mom, it's very comfortable. And then all of a sudden, their teeth start coming in. So, like, that's, boom, suffering, like, right off the bat. And then your teeth all come in, and then it's like, time to go to school, you know. So it's just like, suffering is inevitable for anyone. You should take that as an assumption, as just like a truth to life. And if you take that as it is, the next question is, sorry, so what am I going to do about it? Am I going to make myself more resilient to suffering? Am I going to laugh in the face of suffering? Am I going to overcome this? Or am I just going to let this beat me down until I don't want to do anything? You know, I want to stay inside and hide because it's going to hurt. It's going to be scary. It's going to be frustrating. It's going to be annoying. Like, if that's your mindset, then you can't point the finger outwardly. You're creating your own terrible reality. Yeah, and you know, I felt that. I have felt like a victim for the majority of my life. You know, I didn't really start turning things like that around until I was already an adult. And you know, I'm only like recently 30 years old, but you know, like I get tired, I have back pain, I get bummed out still every day, almost every day. Sometimes I have days where it's just great all the way through, and like thank God for that. But it's how you respond to it. Don't respond negatively. Know that the good times will come too if like you stick it through. So that's what I want my children to know. Just like they're the ones in control of their own lives. Like I'm going to give them as many advantages as I can, give them as much perspective as I possibly can. But I want them to know, like, if they decide to move out and whatever they decide to go on to do with their lives, if it's something that they're passionate about, then it's going to come with some suffering. It's going to come with some effort that you try to set yourself apart from other people and demonstrate what you can do. And it's not easy, but it's worth doing. You know, it justifies, if anything, it justifies the suffering that is inevitable. So I don't really know how to end my thought, but just don't let the suffering be the end of it. Don't let it just overwhelm you. Because it happens to everybody. It's going to happen to you. You know, if you're doing anything worthwhile, it's going to happen. There's going to be pushback. There's going to be effort that you got to put forth and struggle. And as you get better at things, you got to like kind of kill away the part of you that is not good enough to do what you want to do. If you want to like practicing an instrument, if you want to, you got to like kill the slow part of you so you can get faster. You got to kill the part of you that doesn't know where all the chords and scales are and grow into the person who does.